Hello everyone, Avr0ra and I are back with our podcast, and finally we have as our guest one of the best players in the world, Sergey MuneZZ. Hello Sergey.
Yeah, hello guys, thank you for having me, it's a big pleasure.
Can you please tell us about your year, especially the beginning and the middle part? Because the ending of the year was really action-packed, but we don't know much about the first part.
Well, this year, the last year wasn't easy for me. I had to visit 4 different countries. I had to move a lot. And all this moving around places didn't really affect my poker results. I wasn't able to really get in shape after each moving. And I had a lot going on in real life, like outside poker, so I didn't have much time for poker actually. So yeah, I wasn't able to dedicate enough time for poker, and I really hope that this year will be different in this regard. I really hope this year will be less hectic and I will be able to focus on the thing that I love to do the most, which is playing poker.
I have a question on this one. For me, when I had to take long breaks in playing poker, I always felt this mental heaviness, like I feel this pressure that I'm doing something weird, that I'm losing my shape, that I'm not playing. Do you feel something similar to that?
Well, I can't say it's a pressure necessarily, but it's a feeling. When you learn something and you finally feel like you know it, and then you take a break for let's say 2 weeks, you now feel that you have forgotten all of that, and now you need time to catch up, to get back in shape. And I can't remember who of great poker players said that, but the idea is that if you take a break for a week, it will take like a month to catch up.
Oh, I know, Fish 2013 said that. Oh yeah, he said that if you miss a week, you have to recover for a whole month.
And to me, it's even more probably. 1 week would not put me that far behind, I would say. But if I skip like a month, then yeah, it's even worse than Fish said.
Well, yeah, I was trying to say that, for me and for you, poker is a profession, and for Dima at some point it was a profession. And for me, when you have a job, like your life's work, and you don't do your job, then you feel like you're doing something wrong, like you're wasting your time. Oh yeah, this is what I was trying to say.
Oh yeah, I have a similar feeling, and I can't say that I really enjoy doing everyday stuff, like something that occurs in your everyday life, something that you have to deal with. Well, just that the life sometimes give you some tasks, something that you have to deal with, and to deal with it, you have to sacrifice maybe some of your desires and dreams, and maybe some of your goals. So you have to quit everything, basically, and you have to focus your whole attention to this problem that occurred until you solve it. And yeah, this is definitely not the best thing that can happen to you, but at the same time, definitely not the worst.
And how does this affect your game specifically? If you're not in shape, what do? Like you bluff more, or you start calling twice? How does this affect your game?
Oh, it is a good question. Well, I think the key thing is that you have some latest insights, let's say, your latest additions to your strategy. Well, just something that you learned, let's say, a week ago. And when your brain is in an inactive phase, when your brain is constantly working because you're constantly playing, you are also constantly using these new insights. However, if you switch to an autopilot mode, you forget all about all of these new strategies and insights, and you play a completely different game. So if you can play, like for me, for example, if I can play for 2 weeks, I forget all of those insights, all of these new features and strategies. So you roll back to what you have before you found these insights. And since it takes time to learn of all of the new stuff, like let's say you are working on something very specific, like you are studying 3-bet pots, small blind versus button on certain textures, and you got some heuristics out of it. And now you have to practice it. However, those spots occur not that often, like maybe, well, I don't know, like 10 times per session. However, to really drive the point home, to really remember it, to make it a part of your, like, let's say, subconscious, you need to play this spot like, I don't know, like 200 or 500 times. And of course, when you just discovered something new, like you have this insight, you cannot have enough spots to master it completely right away. It takes time. And until you play enough spots to make this new thing basically a part of you, a new part of you, you are, let's say, a subject to forgetting it. If you don't use it, don't practice it often enough. And yeah, this is exactly what happens when you have a break in game, in poker.
Or has it ever happened to you that you play against certain regulars, then you take a break, you come back to the game, and people are playing completely differently, so they adjusted their strategy?
Oh, in this regard, actually, taking a break is a good thing, because imagine you're playing with a certain guy, playing with him for a long time, and you have some reads, of course. However, some of these reads are like a month old, some of them are like a year old. And while you still base your strategy off of those reads against the guy, you may not notice that some of these reads are overdue and irrelevant. However, when you make a break from playing and you come up with a fresh head and you start making new fresh reads, you focus more on what exactly those players are doing. You make decisions that are more informed and based on a more relevant data. But no, I can't say that people change their strategies completely over the short course of time.
Oh, it's actually really hard for people to change game patterns, especially for those who play for a long time. Like you, for example, are playing probably more than 15 years already. Probably even more than I do. When did you start?
I started in 2009.
Oh yeah, you've been playing for more than I do. Congrats. So yeah, for those guys who have been playing for more than 10 years, I think it's pretty much impossible to change their game completely. You can only improve what you already have. Well, I mean, at least this is how I see it.
Well, I think it is possible still, but it depends on how much you really want it. But yeah, I think it is possible if you really want it, if you have enough energy to do the work to reach this goal.
Take your game to the next level with GTO Wizard. Practice against GTO on all your devices. Study any situation using our revolutionary AI-powered solver. Upload your hand histories to uncover your biggest leaks. We have hundreds of hours of coaching from top pros, cutting-edge theory articles, and custom study plans to help guide your poker journey. GTO Wizard, the #1 app for poker players.
Probably the biggest change of 2024 in the poker world is the change in VIP games. They are not available anymore for professional players on GG Poker. And this is the biggest thing in poker in the last 4 years, I would say. And yeah, everybody knows that, but this is actually unprecedented, that the professional players are no longer allowed to play for the highest stakes. And with that, we can probably conclude the era of high-stakes games on GG Poker. Well, as far as I know, you never liked playing on GG. You played there for in like 2021, 2022, but it didn't go well for you, as far as I know, again, and you switched to America's Card Room. But I think you still followed the news, and what do you think about it? Well, in few words, is it sad in your opinion, or actually for you it is probably good, because now you will have more action on higher stakes in your rooms?
Well, I can't say that I never liked playing on GG Poker. I actually did like it a lot, but my bankroll was disappearing too quickly, unfortunately, so I didn't have an opportunity to play there for long enough. And I can give you like a little background of what happened. I mean, why, for example, I didn't play almost at all on GG Poker in 2023. I had like a bad ending of 2022 where I lost a lot of money, some of it on GG Poker actually. So 2023 I started with a rather short bankroll. So I basically didn't have an opportunity to play on GG Poker for a while. I had to recover my bankroll. And by October or November of 2023, I made a comeback to GG Poker and I played some, and it was great. A lot of games going. And I played like 30k hands over the course of like 2 to 3 months, and I made like 10k. So yeah, it's a nice room. I mean, it was a nice room. And yeah, I really liked playing there. When I just started playing on GG Poker, it was in the end of 2020, I believe, when I made my first deposit there, and I saw these big games, and well, I can't say it became my dream, but it definitely became my goal to at some point reach those heights, to participate in those games. And yeah, it gave me a lot of motivation. And as of now, I don't see anything like it on GG Poker. And yeah, it's sad, of course.
I remember clearly year 2023 when you had huge volume on America's Card Room and huge win rates too. And it looked like you didn't have this GG dependence at all. Well, all the other regs used to say that like 90% of high stakes action happens on GG Poker. And now I get to know that you actually enjoy playing GG Poker.
Well, I can't really say why I didn't switch to GG Poker earlier. Well, maybe I had just enough action on America's Card Room, and maybe the action went down a little bit on ACR when I switched to GG Poker. Maybe I didn't have enough of a bankroll to play those like really expensive GG games. Or maybe I wasn't confident enough to actually join those games. I can't remember, guys. But what can you say? It went how it went. But yeah, I definitely had ideas of playing on GG Poker. I've been thinking about it, and I've had ambitions too about playing on GG.
Oh yeah, I totally agree with you that those games on GG were like show matches, like Linus opening the table, waiting for other top regulars to fill in, and then all the top guys battle each other. And well, I don't know if they ever bring back professionals to those games or not. But if not, then the leaderboard of the top winners in these games is fixed forever. And this includes, I think they started tracking it from like 2021. So this is the results for the past 4 years. And yeah, Bergart and Linus are in the top of the list. But there are only 11 players actually who has won more than $1 million. And of course the tracking is like not 100% accurate. But anyways, we see that there's no random players in the on this list. Like all the guys are quite famous and well known. And yeah, Bergart claims the first place forever now, I believe, well, because he won the most in the most expensive games, 100k and 200k. His winnings there were huge. And yeah, this list is fixed now. It's not going to change. I don't think anyone can sneak in. Well, maybe Misha Inner is the only candidate.
Well, let's hope that at some point we will get a new leaderboard with top players, and maybe the results will be even higher. Like, I mean, the life is long, who knows? And Alex, I have a question for you. How do you feel? I mean, how would you feel if you had been a regular at these games and all of a sudden you had found out that these games are no more, like you are not allowed to play there as a professional? I mean, let me rephrase it. How would have you felt if these high-stake games on GG Poker were your main games, and then you find out that these games are no more? Like, can you imagine your emotions when you first hear about this?
Well, nothing positive, definitely, but actually I can still relate to it because I used to play high stakes on GG Poker for quite some time, actually from two different accounts, the fictional one, the PokerRock, and the other. But of course, it could have upset me because all the VIP players, they concentrate on GG Poker, especially VIP players from Asia. So what can I feel about it? Frustration, disappointment, and here I actually knew in advance that it is going to happen. I didn't know the details, but I had an idea. I just couldn't share it with anyone. So it did come to me as a big shock. But yeah, this club system, and I believe that maybe at some point there will be clubs that allow professional players. Because recently, I don't know if you heard about it or not, but there was a private game for Brazilian players, and they have actually allowed professionals there. Exploit was playing there, and a couple of MTT guys. I don't remember the names, but yeah, those were Brazilian professional MTT players. So yeah, maybe the professional players will be allowed in some of those private games, but still, those are private games. Those are not open games anymore. It's not like a fair competition for everyone. And they kill the competitive part of the poker, which is really important for me and for you too, as I know. You told me that poker is not just money for you, it's also the competition.
Yeah, this is definitely true.
And they killed the competition.
Oh yeah, they did. On GG Poker at least. But let's hope for something new to appear.
Yeah, and I also wanted to point out that we had this same thing pretty much happening earlier on Stars. I think you remember this moment when they had some problems with regulations in China, and all of a sudden you realize that there are no more games. So like you hold a table for 2 months straight and nobody joins it. I actually had this experience. I was playing from Thailand, so I opened a table every morning in Thailand time, and I played like 100 hands over the course of 2 months. So yeah, the same thing happened to Stars, and I think that this PokerStars list is also fixed forever. Well, unless they change or redesign something and the new names appear, but yeah, I think Linus and Oshpil are here for good. And I think it's really interesting to compare these two leaderboards, because they do have some overlap, let's say. Linus is number one here, and pretty much number one on GG Poker also, if we don't count the huge upswing for Bergart in those very expensive games. And actually it is a little unexpected for me 4 stars, because I thought that Oshpil is going to be number one. But when we apply all the necessary filters, yeah, Linus is top 2 in both leaderboards. So is he the best of all time? What do you think?
Oh, of all time, you say? Well, Well, Linus is definitely a great player. We've been sharing tables for quite some time now, although he started playing high stakes before I did. And he has been playing for like 6 years or maybe even more on the highest level, on the highest stakes.
Well, he definitely earned more than anyone else, but I can't say that he is the best. So this is like from 18 to 22, right? The other leaderboard is like from 21 to 25. So since 2018, he's been crushing it, and also in other rooms he had decent results. He was good in America's Card Room, his challenge on CoinPoker we will discuss later, and also his offline results like Triton. Yeah, Linus Lilleger is like everywhere. For the past 7 years, he was very competitive, pretty much all the time. I mean, I remember he had like a decline in results once when he tried Omaha a couple of times in like 22 or rather 21. But otherwise, for the past 7 years, he's been one of the top players.
Well, you asked if he is the greatest of all time, but then we have to come up with the criteria for the greatest of all time. And it's really tough to do. But we can definitely say that he is the most successful online player for like the past years at least. What other criteria can we use to determine who is the greatest of all time? Well, maybe we can take like 10 most profitable players for the past years, like 10 guys who won the most, and ask everyone to make their list of the best or the greatest players. And then we can assign points, like first place in the list 10 points, second 9 points, and so on. And then we can determine who is the best based on that. But yeah. Overall, I think I would agree with you. Linus is the coolest, the toughest, and the best players of the past like 7 years. I just can't come up with another name.
Okay, one more question then. Let's get back to GG Poker leaderboard, which is now fixed, without filters, without anything, just top winners. Who you didn't expect to see here in the top 10?
Oh, this is very provocative.
Well, just give me your thoughts, like this is subjective, right?
Well, yeah, I know, but well, in the end of the day, I think each person from this list deserves to be there. Well, maybe not all of those players in the top 10 are the top 10 in the world in terms of skill.
Oh, yeah, of course.
I mean, they're not top 10 in terms of technical side of the game. Although there are other metrics that determine the overall level of the player. Like, for example, the mental aspect of the game. His health state, his endurance, like how many hours you can actually endure playing poker on a high level. And the ability to play only the games that are profitable for you, ignoring completely the games where you are a clear outsider. And I will either completely lack this ability or don't have enough of it. Because for me, many of the times, it is really hard to stop playing where I am a clear outsider. And those games exist. So yeah, I think all the guys here did great, and yeah. And I have nothing to say against any of them.
Well, maybe this is a necessary quality for a high-stakes player. What do you think?
Well, this is definitely a skill that required if you want to reach some financial stability. But if you have different goals, like for example, if you want to show everyone who's the boss, then yeah. You don't really need this skill. You can actually play without it. and keep on moving towards your goal. Well, not necessarily you will achieve some great results, like being in top 10 of this list, but yeah, at some point you can show everyone who's the boss.
Okay, next question. It is like more of a question from the community to you. Like GG Poker been following a certain policy. I mean, they changed their views on the high stakes games recently. Well, first they actually cultivated high stakes games and then they went against it. But anyways, what do you think? Is it possible for other rooms to compete with GG Poker? I mean, you can run a challenge here and there, but in general, like GG Poker is globally much bigger than pretty much all the other rooms combined, at least in my opinion. And is it possible, in your opinion, to compete with them? And what's going to happen next to GG Poker?
Oh, this is an interesting one. I'd like to give you a prognosis. Well, to be honest, I am really far from any business process of any kind. So what I am going to say now is just my personal amateur opinion. This is how I see it. To me, what they are doing right now is just sowing the branch they are sitting on.
Everyone thinks that.
Why they are doing that? Well, this is the different question. And well, maybe they are just a little bit tired of providing a service. I mean, providing a poker service. And maybe right now they are at their peak, although not sure if it's a peak right now. Maybe the peak was when all the thing happened with the other rooms, well, not other rooms, but high stakes tables rather. And I think they will never reach this peak again in the future. So for them, it's all downhill from now on. And maybe the top management, or not necessarily even the top management, maybe just some kind of management decided to try to make as much money as possible right now, while they are still close to the peak. So they don't think about their business or what's going to happen with it in like the upcoming 10 to 20 years, and instead decided to basically cash out right now.
Well, this is an interesting question because they had these games running on the highest stakes with a lot of rake actually, and now they just don't have any of those games, and they don't get any rake. Financially beneficial.
Well, I cannot speak for them. I mean, I don't know which initial data, let's say, they've been working with. I don't know, maybe it's more than just a financial question, like maybe ego of some of the top management guys was too big and he decided at some point then it's better for him for him and everyone else to get nothing than that he has to share his profits with some racks. Well, I think that until someone who actually made those decisions is going to come out and tell how it was, we will never know what was going on there. And considering your question about can anyone compete with GG Poker?
Oh yeah, with all these huge marketing budgets and the head start in terms of room development, is it at all possible for anyone to compete with GG?
Oh, you're talking high stakes games specifically or poker in general?
Well, I think those things are connected. I mean, take Stars for example. Like 7 years ago, they looked completely invincible. I couldn't even imagine that they will lose their leading positions in poker world, but look what we have now. And it seems that this may also happen to GG Poker at some point.
Well, I think the path that they have chosen may actually lead to that. But how fast will that happen? We can only guess, like 1 year, 5 years, 20 years. They kept 2K games and lower intact, right? And I don't think that anything will change in those games. Well, 1K games definitely will not change. 2K games, well, I don't really follow that closely what is happening on 2K games, but I don't think that anything will change there as well. Well, I mean, if people are playing there right now, what will make them change their opinion like in a year, let's say? If they don't understand that most of the games out there are not profitable now, I think nothing's gonna change.
Well, yeah, I think the key moment here is this poker dream that all the regulars have, basically, that you can start playing lower stakes and then reach the highest ones. But now you don't even have physically you don't have these highest ones on GG Poker anymore. But they had it on Stars, for example. This is what attracts players, including amateurs, I think, and this is a necessity for a tier 1 room.
Oh yeah, and I don't understand, like if those games are unbeatable pretty much, why even bother playing them?
Oh, they are beatable, It's just that, it's just a rumor that GG haters started for some reason. And a great example is poker bots that sometimes pop up. You can see topics on 2+2. And just so you know, bots are playing 8 BB per 100 after the rake on any stake. So yeah, all the stakes are beatable, it's just that it's tougher to do. The rake is still high, you just have to be like an extraordinary player. And for an average player, it's much easier to climb the stakes on Stars, for example, where the effective rake is like 3 times or 2.5 times lower than on GG Poker.
Well, that means that this poker dream is very much alive, even on GG Poker.
Well, it is, but it is much harder to fulfill.
Oh yeah, it is much tougher now. But at the same time, you have other rooms too, where the conditions are much better, when it's easier to fulfill this poker dream. So people have choice.
Well, yeah, let's hope that someone jumps in and takes the spot. Okay, so I played a little bit with some filters. I took out all the 40k and 100k games. I only left games where you can get like enough volume, like 5k, 10k, and even 20k. I think it was possible. 40k plus is all variants, but still we see that Bergart is number 1. So yeah, however you put it, Bergart is the best player of this period of high-stake games on GG Poker, and rightfully so. And what do you think about him? Like, is it comfortable for you to play against him in like 3 max settings?
Oh, this is a tough opponent for me to play against. Oftentimes I just don't understand what is he doing. And well, of course, everyone is adjusting to everyone, basically. At least on the highest stakes. And for example, when I see a showdown from Bergart against Linus, let's say, I cannot make a conclusion. Then in the same spot next time against Bergart, let's say, I will do a certain thing. I will play a certain way. It doesn't work like that. So yeah, I can't say that I have cracked his strategy because he's beating me and I don't know why. So yeah, there's no answer for me yet, which means that I have something to work on. Well, he's the guy who definitely knows what he's doing. He definitely knows and understands his strategy really well. I mean, of course, he does know his strategy better than you do. And even though this strategy is not, well, in my opinion, this strategy is not, what would you say? Not the most correct one, not the most profitable. And how do you explain it? Like, it's a strategy where if I knew how he was playing, then the strategy would not be like the most profitable, like this kind of thing. I mean, there are ways to build his ranges differently, like make the whole strategy more optimized. But since he knows really well how to implement his strategy, and he knows the strategy, of course, much better than all the opponents do, he wins a lot of money. So yeah, very good, very tough, very strong player.
Now this is an interesting leaderboard by the number of hands. And Manuel Saavedra has managed to play 500,000 hands there. Well, on the stake that are available for mere mortals, 5k to 20k. And a huge shortage, you see? Oh yeah, he's $500,000 beyond the EV. Testa Yanter is also up there, managed to play a lot of hands. And you know, it's like watching a Football Manager or Formula 1 leaderboards like this, man sports. And I remember a long time ago when we just started this podcast, I've been thinking that this whole thing actually can be compared to Formula 1. Because you see, we have basically the same people all over. Like Oshpil was in both lists. Limitless was a top 5, I believe, in both lists. So yeah, over the years, those are basically the same players who are in the top. And by the way, Bergart is also quite high in a number of hands played, 270k almost. Well, Artyom also did quite well on the highest stakes. By the way, in terms of EV difference, Manuel can blame Artyom here, I think.
Oh yeah.
Ortex here also played pretty well here, but he was very unsuccessful on 40k, the one that is not included here. And yeah, if you get back to Formula 1 comparison, we also do kind of the same. You know how they compare all the players, who's beating who, and all the stats they go through, we kind of do the same. And as in Formula 1, we also had a dramatic event last year. Matthew Bergart was shot. I believe you've heard about it. We had a whole video dedicated to him. On Gypsy Team, they've made a very touching article about Matthew, where different players shared their thoughts about him. I found out that he and Linus were good friends from this article. He was a big part of the community, and here he played 400k hands. And yeah, I just saw his nickname here and remembered the whole thing, and it was a big shock for me because I've played a lot with him. We were living in the same time zones, so we've played a lot together. And this made me think about life, really. One day we play together, and the other I know that he's not coming back at the tables anymore at all.
What's weird is that I believe he lived in Canada, right?
Yeah, in Toronto.
Oh, Toronto even. Who would have thought that something like that can happen to a poker player in Toronto? And it's not the guy who would go and play some underground games in the basement with a lot of shady people. It's just a normal guy who is just sitting at home playing his favorite game, and something like this happens to him.
Oh yeah, just a very unfortunate occasion, like a bad beat basically. He was on a party, on a birthday party, on one of his friends, and one of them was a part of a gang, like he was a gang member. And I'm not trying to blame him or anything, but it was a thing between two gangs, and he unfortunately just was in the middle of it. Wrong time, wrong place.
Well, this actually changes things a little bit when you are, not that you are apart, but if you are close to someone who is a part of a gang. And I don't know how serious it is, gangs in Canada. But when you are in a vicinity of a gang, let's say, of a gang member, then of course you kind of endanger yourself a little bit. And yeah, unfortunately here, it turned out in a bad way.
And why I even started this topic, I have a few hands from Matthew Bergart, and I thought it would be interesting for you to see those hands and for our audience as well. I got those hands from Matthew's friend, and I've got a few hands from him, but I picked two which I liked the most. So those are my two favorite hands from Matthew Bergart, and let's go over those together. And actually Matthew came up a lot on our show. We discussed him and his hands a lot in the past. And remember, there was a warning system for bun hunting on GG Poker. Oh yeah, this is what I was going to talk about. So I kind of switched topics. So yeah, let's get back to this one. So this is what was happening. Like if you were selecting tables too well, you will get a note from GG Poker that you should probably change something that you do, or we will not be so happy to see you here. And Matthew got a lot of those notifications, even though he was playing everywhere, every table. He was just playing all day long. And the system was so unfair, especially to him. This was so random how they did it. Have you ever gotten one?
Oh, no, never. Well, I wasn't actually selecting a table this much. I was doing more... Although no, that was a lie. I was selecting. Sorry about that. Well, let's say I was playing everything, but there were no reg wars basically on higher stakes. And I remember times when I just registered on GG Poker and I didn't have real names back then, and I was playing with Stefan and Dex.
Oh, I do remember those times.
And Dex didn't know who I was, and Stefan in the beginning too, but then I told him. And I remember rake being like 2 BBs per 100.
Yeah, you were playing 20k. I remember those times. We were studying hands from these games with you.
But yeah, but other than that, there were no reg wars. Nobody wanted to play regulars on higher stakes.
Oh yeah, this whole warning system was working really poorly. And maybe this is why they decided to stop this thing. Yeah, and the funniest thing is how they always attacked Matthew for that. But the guy is top 4 in the number of hands played. It's impossible for him to be a bomb hunter. You just cannot play this many hands by selecting tables too carefully. So yeah, the whole top 5 here is the guys who play pretty much everything.
Oh yeah, for the three of us, it is obvious that the guy wasn't guilty of what they were trying to charge him with, but not for them.
Okay, let's take a look at this one. Well, there's no real... well, there's nothing here basically to analyze, I would say. It's just an interesting bluff for 250 blinds. Oh, I always love it when... okay, let's go over their hand first. So what happened? It's a 3-bet pot. Matthew starts with a bet on a very good board for his range. I mean, Ignacio is probably checking his whole range on such a board after a 3-betting preflop. It's a common strategy. I think a professional will check his entire or almost entire range on 4-3 deuce. Overpairs aren't doing well here, so he checks and Matthew bets. Turn checked through. And on the river, Matthew probably decided to bet thinly for value against like ace-king.
Well, this is questionable, but okay.
Oh yeah, it is questionable, and then after facing a check raise, he decided to turn his head into a bluff. Well, if we're shoving against a check raise, maybe we don't want to bet in the first place.
Well, when I saw it, I immediately had an idea that maybe he did bet on the river with a plan to shove against the check raise. Maybe he wasn't planning to bet fold in the first place.
Oh, I think you can expect it from Nacho.
Well, because in my opinion, this is way too thin of a bet.
I agree.
Oh yeah, this is really cool. The only question is what he's trying to represent on the river besides pocket nines and 10-9 suited.
Well, 5-6, I think, hypothetically, he can still have a straight in his range, and I think this is the first thing that he's trying to represent. So yeah, this is the hand you can put on a t-shirt. Like, remember, there was a meme that a guy had a really nice hand and he printed it on his t-shirt and he was all proud about it and stuff. So yeah, this is the type of hand you can actually print on your t-shirt. He probably made him fold or maybe it was a rebluff actually. But anyways, how many bluffs like this I ever made throughout my entire career? Well, less than 5. I would say, yeah, less than 5. BRD, how many bluffs like this have you ever made in your career? Well, definitely less than 5, or maybe even less than 1.
Oh, I definitely agree. I will not clarify, is it below 5 for me or below 1, but yeah, I totally agree. It's a rare bluff.
Well, I had some of those in my career, but in different spots actually, out of position, like blind versus blind, or big blind versus button. And I think I can be honest now, like in terms of high-stakes cash games, I chickened out of playing a challenge against you guys, so I can tell that probably in 3-bet pots I never did anything like it, to be like completely honest. Well, 200 BB's unique spot.
Yeah, for me it's like the same as you. Maybe different spots, like with a deeper SPR, where you can actually put more pressure. So yeah. Although maybe I had bluffs like that, I just can't remember everything.
Oh yeah, and I think this is actually a rebluff, because what he represents set plus, right? And bluffs, and maybe just a tiny bit of thin value bets.
You're talking about check raising range now, right?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think he will always check raise an overpair here on such a board, like 4-3 deuce, 10-9.
Well, aces are good here.
Oh yeah, but it could be a rebluff actually. Cool hand anyways.
Well, he won, so he was right either way.
And in other hand, another rebluff against Davy Jones. He was also in the list on stars. And it's funny because I don't know if you remember that or not, but he showed up on stars when basically all the games were over. So his winnings are like the most skill-based because there were a lot of reg wars going on. So basically the games were dying down on stars, and he had to play a lot against other regs, and he crushed everyone. Well, at least this is how I remember it. Maybe it's different for you. But yeah, this is my recollection of these times.
Well, to my recollection, for the past like 5 years, there were only reg wars going on.
Well, there were some VIP players, but not often.
Yeah, definitely not often.
So anyways, this is also a very nice hand, one of my favorites from Matthew. So he overbets the turn. Basically, up until the river, everything is pretty standard. This is like a standard combination of bet sizes. I told Beardy about this one before. Like we have a joke, like this is the 1-2 punch combo, where you block bet the flop and then overbet the turn. And then on the river, Davy Jones or Lemon House here, Donk overbets. He tried to represent trips.
Do you think it's impossible to fold out trips here?
Well, who knows if he ever folds trips. Well, I think it is possible. When we represent trips or bluffs, the opponent is quite unlikely to try to make us fold, right? So I think it is possible. And we also are bluffing here because we don't block any of his bluffs with 5 deuce. So if you want to bluff anything at all here, this is the perfect hand.
Yeah, I agree. And this line, when you check call, I mean you check call twice and then you don't bet on the board pair in a river. Well, not necessarily a board pair in river card, but the card that is better for the out of position player is more common among players nowadays. So you see this more often, and I already saw a couple of bluffs with this line. I mean, when the button shoves representing something even stronger than what out of position player has.
Well, I think Davy Jones made a slight mistake here because I think it was better for him to go to shove right away. Because at the end of the day, he kinda shoved but then fold against the min raise. And I think that Davy here, a little bit of deduction from my side, since he didn't go for time bank before folding, he didn't have a 9. So it was a rebluff. So maybe he played Jack-10 like this. Like this is the one that comes from the top of my head.
Yeah, or some low clubs.
Yeah, come to think of it, it's a fine idea to bluff Jack-10, right?
You meant in Davy Jones's shoes?
Yes.
Oh yeah, I totally agree.
Because we reach the river with almost all combos of Jack-10, and we definitely want to turn some of those into a bluff.
Well, not only Jack 10, he can also have some flush draws, some medium flush draws, Jack Eye flush draws, let's say.
Yeah, but mentally it's tougher to bluff with the flush draw, and with Jack 10 you don't block bluffs, you don't block busted flush draws.
But you can also win a showdown with Jack 10, right?
Oh, can you? Oh, probably you can.
Well, there are some lower OESDs and flush draws.
Well, you know, the more I look at this, the more I like this min-raise shove. Well, of course, I am results oriented here, and I would never play like this myself.
Well, of course, if you know that villain is not going to use his time bank here, then it's much easier to shove.
Yeah, but come to think of it, even if villain never folds a 9, this shove might be profitable still. Because you can successfully rebluff. So yeah, two nice hands from Matthew. And what about you? You haven't really played with him, right?
Oh, I don't remember his ACR name.
Oh, he was banned from ACR because he had like he was too young. He created an account when he was too young.
Well, we played a little bit on ACR, but I don't remember his nickname, and we definitely played a little bit on GG Poker as well. And from my side, I can say that he was a really uncomfortable, let's say, opponent to be around. Because he did a lot of stuff that made it really tough, really awkward to play against him. He maybe even did something that wasn't like really profitable, but at the same time he made it really difficult for you as well. So he probably didn't win himself much in those spots, but he didn't allow you to win as well. But of course you had to find ways to fight him back. You cannot just allow him to rebluff you all the time, then he will just run you over. Of course, there's nothing you can do when you have a bluff and he rebluffs. But with some bluff catchers, in some spots where you can, against a typical opponent, you would fold without giving it second thoughts, you would call against Matthew. But it definitely was tough to play against him.
Alright, now let's see the results for 2024. And with this, we can conclude this year, the last year. We are a bit late with this, but we were waiting for coin stuff to finish and we will talk about it separately. But for 2024, two biggest rooms are ACR and GG, right? And yeah, good old Linus and Bergart are here again. However, you tinker with the filters, you cannot get rid of those two. Oh yeah, you just can't take those two out of the picture.
Oh yeah, those guys are removable.
Oh, by the way, I forgot to mention, I've studied reports for the high stakes action, and there are only so many players who have actually played at least one hand on NL 100k. And there are usually just a few hands that determine the whole graph for the highest stakes games for different players. I mean, just a few hands determine whether you have a green graph on NL 100k or a red one. And Linus, Bergart, and MakeBoyFin, guys who are very successful on the highest stakes, had actually won those crucial hands.
Oh yeah, this is all true, like this variance there is crazy.
Okay, another topic I wanted to discuss with you, we've been talking about it on our podcast a lot, that we basically see the same names, the same guys at the top for quite some time now. So we don't have this fresh blood. However, 2024, in my opinion, is the year when it finally changed. I was watching everything pretty closely, and before 2024, there were no new superstars. Well, I saw some of the guys, but I didn't really know anything about them, couldn't really say anything about them. And now we have the most prominent one here in this list is Dejan Kalogjurjevic. You can probably even name him the player of the year of 2024, with a stretch. He was pretty successful in cash games, and in tournaments, I don't know if you follow tournaments or not, he has won pretty much everything. He had a huge upswing, or probably nobody in the history of poker experienced such an upswing before. So yeah, he took top games by storm. Also, of the new names, Chris Nguyen, a guy from Germany. He's 26, same as Dayan. By the way, they all are kinda 26 or around this number. Oh yeah, Daniil, Prodigy, they all 26.
Oh yeah. We've been playing on CoinPoker recently, and everyone had a good mood, like a talkative mood. So we started discussing stuff, and we started talking about this age of 26 because there were 3 players at the table who were exactly 26. One of them was Prodigy, and I don't remember the other 2.
Well, Owen is not on this list because he wasn't really successful on GG Poker.
Oh, he will make leaderboards on CoinPoker.
As far as I know, his main room is ACR. Okay, if you take a look at ACR leaderboards, Davy Jones is in control here. Oh, Linus is also present. Born to Tilt is Linus Love. And Luca Brate is Chris Nguyen. So I believe Chris is the most successful of the new generation in cash games, because he made it to both leaderboards. Who else? Who else I want to point out here? Well, considering Americans are not allowed to play on GG Poker, but they still can play on ACR. And while we are here discussing ACR leaderboard, we can talk a little bit about players from America. Matt Marinelli, for example. He is, where is he? Oh, he's at number 18 here. I love Avr0ra. And if we talk about American cash players, he is the first that comes to mind. Who do you think is the best American cash player?
Well, I'd say it's between him and SeaLlama. Well, it's hard for me to say because I played a lot against Matt, we play each other a lot on ACR. And with SeaLlama, I didn't really play much, but I can tell that it was a very unpleasant experience playing against him. Like, he's a very tough opponent, but the sample size is too low. And I can't tell if he's as tough in the long run. So yeah, I cannot tell for now. I need more hands against him.
One more question about WPN. Have you ever faced OnePlusOne?
Oh, of course.
What do you think about him? Because it's an interesting question. I've heard a lot about him, and the funny part is that you played against him, and I did too. So the guy selects from NL 600 to the highest stakes.
Well, the question is he actually selecting tables? Or maybe there is another name for what he's doing.
You mean using scripts? Well, maybe. Well, anyways, I heard a lot of rumors about him and Alaska using RTA. What do you think about that?
Well, I am 100% positive that Alaska does not use real-time assistance, because if OnePlusOne is one of the best winners against me, then Alaska is one of the biggest losers against me in terms of win rate. So I have no feeling that Alaska is using anything of this kind. So yeah, I have no questions for Alaska in this regard. However, OnePlusOne is a different story. We played a lot of hands together. Well, probably like 20 to 30k all time, or around this number. And my biggest question to him is that his stats are quite unbalanced. Like a lot of holes, and then when you try to exploit those holes, he does not adjust. I mean, he didn't adjust, at least back in the day. So yeah, you see those holes in his game, those obvious leaks, and you exploit those, and you gain your EV from that. But then you take a look at the overall results, and you see that you are losing against him, and losing a lot. And how he manages to do that, well, it's hard to say.
So he win more basically in other spots, right?
Well, I have a guess. That maybe in some, what would you call it? Like in some less obvious game nodes, he takes so much from me, like he wins so much from me, that it covers everything I can make exploiting his obvious leaks. I mean, this is the one explanation at least. I wrote a whole post in our closed Discord server about the fair play. poker fair play. And I mean, you guys, you two, have played a lot of hands in your time, and I'm pretty sure that you had this experience when you play against a guy for a certain amount of time, and then it turns out that he was using something forbidden, some kind of assistance and so on. For example, I have played with Avr0ra for quite some time, who was then banned.
Oh yeah, a lot of cases on ACR.
Well, I'm not talking about ACR specifically, stars as well.
We often get the emails that someone got banned. Yeah, but I mean the most recent cases were at ACR. Broken Dream Glass, you probably heard of that.
Yeah, and I was saying that, for example, last month I was playing on CoinPoker, and I felt like I'm playing versus humans. Like I could tell I was playing versus humans. But when I was playing against OnePlusOne, I didn't have this feeling that I am playing against a human. Well, for me, it just doesn't add up that some cases he plays really poorly, and in other cases, which are like much more complex, he plays so well. So yeah, this is the feeling that I got from playing him. Or maybe he is super tricky and super smart, maybe like he's a genius, and he specifically came up with this stratagem so that he can confuse everybody to make more money, or here he's just cheating and using something forbidden. And maybe with that he also tried to look like a weaker player to induce some action, to maybe like lose a couple of small pots, so that then he can win in bigger pots with some auxiliary like third-party software to cover up for the small pot losses, and then of course get some on top of it.
Well, yeah, anyways, his graph looks amazing.
And yeah, this is just my opinion. I cannot accuse him of using some forbidden software. It's just my gut feeling, like something is wrong there. I mean, you're playing against 40 guys on CoinPoker, and not even once you have a feeling or like an idea that someone might be using something illegal. And then there are guys that you are not so sure about whether they do this or not. And yeah, you have the like a completely different feeling when playing with them. So yeah, I don't know what to do with this information, but I just have this feeling, like this gut feeling.
Oh, I think he's banned already.
And I had this feeling against guys who were later banned by the rooms. Can it be like a coincidence? I mean, of course it can. But at the same time, I will not be shocked at all if it later unveils that he has been using something.
Oh yeah, totally agree with you on that one. And there was a funny story, I don't think it's a secret anymore, and I already told about it on one of my streams. So there was a guy on ACR nobody wanted to play against, except you, because everyone was sure that he was using RTA. His name was like Zeta Anti or something, do you remember?
Oh yeah, of course I do remember him.
Zeta Anti, I believe, but anyways, it ended up with you destroying him. And you basically finished this guy's whole career, the guy who everyone was sure was cheating.
Well, I cannot tell if I actually ended his career or not, but I do remember him making some obvious mistakes. And again, maybe he was making those little mistakes and then played perfectly in more expensive spots. I cannot tell it, of course. But I didn't have this feeling like I have against OnePlusOne when I was playing against him. And I don't know if I crushed him or other players chipped in, or maybe he just got tired and stopped playing. But his game wasn't suspicious to me. And usually when I see people making mistakes and I don't have any suspicions about them, I just keep on playing. And this is what happened.
Oh, this reminds me of a story when you, Sergey, announced your suspicion about some guy cheating, and then after you played with him for a while, you said that he's not guilty. Oh yeah, we had this joke. Remember the meme going around the internet that Hemingway wrote the shortest and saddest story? And this was kind of like that. First, Sergei MuneZZ himself suspects him of cheating, which for him is like a recognition of his merit. And then, after playing with him for a while, he drops all the charges. And with that, drops all of his self-esteem. So you kind of lifted the guy up to cloud 9, and then you dropped him all the way down.
Do you remember any other examples of players who showed up on the highest stakes and then got banned for using third-party software?
Well, to me, the most outstanding case is a case of Broken Beam Glass, or otherwise known as Redline. He's a student of Fish 2013.
Oh, I played with him.
So yeah, he was banned for using RTA, and it was confirmed. And he's still playing apps, I believe, Omaha now. Which is really interesting. The guy's been playing Hold'em on high stakes, and then he switches to Omaha, and very successful there. So he's still using this stuff. Oh yeah, my follow-up question is how relevant this problem is on high stakes. I mean, problem of people using RTA. Because I cannot remember like a lot of big bans of some really famous and successful high-stakes regulars. I mean, you can use fingers of one hand to count all those bans, like Avr0ra, like this guy you just mentioned, and this is pretty much it. So yeah, how relevant is this problem on high stakes?
Oh yeah, the problem is relevant simply because when playing high stakes, you risk a lot of money. And when you sit at the table risking so much money, you definitely don't want to play against a cheater.
Well, I was talking about people having a lot of suspicions, but we don't see a lot of bans. So either those suspicions have no ground, or the security system doesn't do its job.
Well, I can't tell how many people get banned after being suspected of using RTA. Or some of them definitely do get banned. Anyways, my idea is that when someone new appears on the high stakes and they play really well, especially without obvious mistakes, then of course it is always suspicious. But of course, I do understand where all of that comes from. Like take me for example, I have been playing poker for 15 years. And it basically took me those 15 years to get to the level I am right now. Well, not 15 per se, but let's say, 12. Because for the last 2 or 3 years, my level doesn't really grow much compared to the previous years. Let's even say it took me 10 years to get to this level of play. And so it takes 10 years to learn how to play, to beat high stakes. And then pretty much nobody comes out of nowhere and he's that good right off the bat. So when I see this, the first thing that comes to my mind at least is, who the hell is he? And where did he come from? I mean, what did he do to get to the point where he is right now? And if I don't have answers to any of these questions, well, then of course I get thoughts of this guy cheating. Well, I just can't accept that you can go through all of this path this quick. I mean, it doesn't take 10 years today, of course, but still.
Well, I know exactly what you're talking about. And then there was this case with a guy who only used RTA when playing 3-bet pots. And it was quite obvious, right? Everyone knew that he was cheating because he played on a really high level in 3-bet pots, and then he had no idea what to do in single raise pots. So he wasn't there. And even though he had quite a background in poker, he was figured out pretty quickly. Although he keeps on playing under different screen name.
What was his name?
Sonic 3D Blast.
Oh yeah, that's the guy. I do remember him.
And I have communicated with him a little bit. We were in the same chat. And because people knew him really well, they tried to defend him. even though the evidence was quite convincing. And of course, eventually he got banned both on GGPoker and WPN. So it happens still, and people ask, how can this happen? Like, I mean, chess is almost solved, and we play for huge money. How cannot we solve this problem? But poker is a complex game with a lot of variables. And even if you give the top RTA to a guy from the street, let's say, and make him play against like Sergey here, Sergey will prevail. So it's not enough to have advanced software to win against a top player. I mean, of course, computer will beat any player one-on-one, but when we play 3-max or 4-max tables, there are some ways to figure out that the player is cheating. Like the top guys, they can spot the difference. For example, a player is really good at some spots and really bad in others, which is really unnatural, and if the guy is caught cheating, then he's banned and he is stripped of all of his money, and the risks are too high. So the paradox of poker is that on the highest stakes, the games are more clean than on, like, let's say, NL200, when the risk of getting banned is not that high in terms of losses.
Oh yeah, it's easier to blend with the crowd on NL200.
So yeah, over the course of like 15 years, we only have 3 or 4 big bans on high stakes. I mean, we had more on like NL1K in small rooms, but that's different.
Okay, I have a question for you guys. So you did this video about how to study a game of poker today, like how to approach studying in today's world, and what state poker industry is right now. And what do you think? How much time does a person require to get from the very bottom all the way to the reg wars on NL5K?
Well, 1,000 hours.
Yeah, to be able to compete in those reg wars.
Well, I'd say about 4 years. I'd say in today's environment, 4 years can be enough. Yeah, but with top approach, with some talent for poker, and with top environment. Yeah, and all the guys that you've been playing with, all the youngsters, 26 years old, and like Chris Nguyen and others that you have played with on CoinPoker, they all have a history of playing poker for 5 years plus. Well, 4 years is like supersonic speed. Well, I meant to play reg wars on NL5K. Of course, you can reach NL500 quicker. Even to so-called bum hunt the high stakes, if it's even possible, it's too quick probably. Yeah, you can maybe even do it faster if you specifically play against certain opponents, recreational players only. But if you want to fight players like Sergey here, for example, and I don't mean beating players like Sergey, I mean just competing against and just surviving against players like Sergey. It would take like at least 5 years, I think. And only with the best approach. And what do you think yourself about that?
Well, yeah, it's a good question actually. I can only answer based on my own experience, and of course, in the early days, well, not of course, because we had less study material.
Well, we also didn't have solvers, which is very important.
Even with the solvers, while we didn't have some instructions, at least, to how to use those solvers, and no educational videos, not as much as we have today, especially the amount you can get for free today is crazy. And of course, yeah, back in the day, it took more time to develop. But I would probably agree with you. 5 years is the least amount you need, and not just 5 years playing casually. It's like 5 years of super hard and very meticulous work. And as you mentioned, you need a certain environment. You need certain people around you who would guide you in the right direction. What to study, how to study, what to do. You need like mentors. Not even coaches per se, mentors. People who would guide you, people who would not necessarily tell you what to do, but rather how to do it.
Oh, I agree with you 100%.
Well, I didn't have any of that in my time, so it took much more time.
Oh, none of us had. We had to study OTB Red Baron's database. That's all we had. And you can see all of this in MTTs. Now that I've played enough, I can see stuff like that. Some people there come up to the top for like 2 or 3 years. All because the variance is much higher, of course. And you can see people that are really good at some aspects of the game, but terrible at others. So yeah, maybe if you bomb hunt, if you select tables just as BRD mentioned, you can get there quicker. But to be able to fight guys like MuneZZ here, or to participate in a CoinPoker challenge, you need more. You cannot be really bad at pretty much any aspect of the game. Otherwise, people will notice and destroy you. And it's not about just the technical part of the game, it's mental too. Like, I mean, if you sit down at the table and you lose like 10 stacks right away, it's really hard to continue playing well. And sometimes you just have to keep on playing. And I want to return for a little bit to the topic of using RTA. BRD mentioned that a lot of people are suspected of using it, but not too many people get banned. I don't think it's about security being not efficient. I think it's just players' paranoia. Variance is crazy, and when you lose a lot, claiming RTA is like the easiest coping mechanism. I was accused of using RTA, even Sergey. Like, Sergey has probably the most clean reputation in poker community. It's really hard to find people with a cleaner reputation. And Give Me Up, one of the top regulars who is not playing anymore for quite some time now, but I still talk to him a lot. He was completely sure, like 100% sure. He was ready to bet any money on the fact that MuneZZ is using RTA. But this is kind of a way of showing respect too. So he liked your game so much, he was sure you are playing with a helper. And maybe it's just variance. Like, variance is crazy. Sometimes you feel like you always get bluffed and your bluffs never work. But yeah, he was really ready to put money on the fact that MuneZZ is using RTA. And yeah, pretty much everyone was under suspicion at some point.
Oh yeah, I do remember talking to Give Me Up once in my life, and you were there, Alexei. And I remember you brought that up, this whole thing about me using RTA. And I don't remember what he said, but I believe he agreed with you that it was just like a paranoia.
Yeah, it's just variance plus paranoia. But kind of a good paranoia, right? Because you check everyone multiple times, and it helps, of course. And you know, there's this good saying in German, I believe, that when two people know something, pig also knows it. And some of these guys, like for example, Prodigy that BRD mentioned, or SeaLlama, they were also under suspicion. Like people thought that they are using something, but they know each other. Like all these guys, they used to rent a house in Vegas, and they played together from there. So if one of them is cheating, then otherwise also do it. Or at least they know, and it will come up at some point. So when SeaLlama played a match against Linus, Prodigy was there behind his back watching this game. So if SeaLlama was cheating, Prodigy knows it. So yeah, if you follow this chain up to the top, then... Oh yeah, and then it turns into a global conspiracy. Yeah, and why OnePlusOne is most likely a cheater? Because nobody knows him. A guy comes out of nowhere and starts beating everyone on NL40K. Nobody knows the guy, nobody knows anything about him. But then SeaLlama and Prodigy, those guys are quite famous in the community. And that actually kinda makes them innocent. I mean, if they even do something, it will come up eventually. And it happened before, by the way.
I wanted to say something about SeaLlama, or you sometimes call him SeaLlama. Is it right?
Well, I'm just joking basically, because in Argentina, WL reads as a Sha. Like, so in Argentina you would call him SeaLlama, but it has nothing to do with him because he's not Argentinian, he's American. And actually we talked to him a little bit. He has a very a strong ego. It's really nice talking to him. But yeah, he's basically playing around. He's just fooling around. But he's 26 and he's supposed to be like that, right?
Oh, he's 26?
So yeah, I came up with this SeaLlama thing.
Well, you know, from the video that I saw, I can't believe he's 26. He looked like 40 at least.
Oh, he is 26.
So yeah, about SeaLlama, do you know his background, his like history? Because I also have no idea where he came from. Like, did he play something before he stormed the highest stakes of ACR and started crushing everyone?
Oh yeah, him and Lol Voidaments came from Bovada. Oh well, oh hey, Cindy actually played pretty much everywhere. He has a huge history. And why they all left Bovada? Because they have huge problem with bots. So Bovada basically sold out to the bot farms, to our guys, let's say our Siberian guys. And for some time, it was possible to beat bots. It wasn't like the game, the real game, but you had to come up with some strategies to beat bots. But then they started banning those guys who found ways to beat bots. So this is how they completely sold out. So everyone just quit at some point.
Bovada and Ignition is the same network, right?
Oh, they used to be separate, but now it's the same network, yes. Well, it's the same as ACR and WPN. One is the skin, right? And the other one is the network. And here I believe Bovada is the skin and Ignition is the network. At least I think so.
So SeaLlama's background checks out, right?
He has an offline history, and a famous one, by the way. And, well, nobody can prove it, and it sounds suspicious, probably, like, it will sound suspicious for you, I think. But he says that he's been studying solvers for quite some time, and many people approve it. Well, he's put a nice volume on CoinPoker, even though he wasn't really good in terms of, like, winnings, but you can't just come from nowhere and join such a challenge. Well, when he showed up, SeaLlama, I remember this moment clearly. I had to play a lot against him, and he wasn't even playing 5k, he was playing 2-3k. Some people stayed him, and I was shocked. And I had no suspicions, but I'm playing poker for 14 years now. And I had, throughout my whole career, maybe like 2 or 3 times when I called Queen High and won. But with him, I had like 3 or 4 hands like this in a week. And I thought, oh my god, this guy is crazy. So yeah, I had no questions about the legitimacy of his play, and then other players, like friends of mine, also approved it. And his game is so exploitative that even if he uses some sort of assistant, it's definitely not a GTO assistant, 100%. And considering the fact that a lot of people know him, I think he's clean.
To be honest, I had the exact same feeling when I started playing against him. Just as you mentioned before, that there are spots or showdowns that occur like 3 to 4 times in your entire career. And then when you play against SeaLlama, you see this stuff like 3 or 4 times a week. And this is exactly my feeling. He played so differently from what everyone else was doing. And he wasn't just playing slightly different from what an average player would do. He played differently from what 99% of the field would do. Like completely different style. For example, he faces 3 barrels, and on the river, his opponent overbets 300% against him. And he has a bluff catcher, and he calls like after 2 seconds of thinking. Like 99% of the field would just think about it, realize that this is not a bluffing spot at all, and most likely fold in the end of the day. But for him, not only he calls, but he calls pretty much instantaneously. It's nothing for him, like just another day in the office. And it either means that he has some assistant, and this is why he acts so quickly, because he knows right away what to do. Or for him, it's just a standard spot that he's been through a lot in his career, and he knows exactly what to do here, exactly what to do with his certain hand, and he doesn't even need time to think before making this call. And yeah, in the end of the day, both options are possible.
Oh yeah, and also he has like this gambly way of thinking, like he's a gambler inside. There's a video of him cheering after he wins a hand, like he likes this insta calls, and maybe he already decided that he's going to call the river before the river card even came in. And I remember a few hands against him where there's a huge pot on the river, and I decide to bluff, and he thinks for quite some time he really tanks, And then he calls, and of course I know that I lost because he called, but then I see that the money comes towards me, meaning that he called with a hand that is actually weaker than my bluff. So he bluff catched with a hand that is weaker than my actual bluff. And according to Solver, he loses like 1000 BBs per 100, while I wasn't going out of line. So yeah, I bluffed like with a hand like King Jack. I don't remember, it was a couple of years ago on LL3K. But anyways, I bluffed and he called with a weaker hand. And it happens to everyone. Like I had maybe like a dozen of cases like that in my career. And then of course I checked it in the solver because I had no idea why did he call in the first place. Like maybe he hated me for something, maybe he had some time intel, I don't know. But anyways, after this hand, just as you said about the guy that he's completely innocent before, I had the same idea. Like this guy is totally innocent. So you are suspicious, right? Then you see this hand and yeah, this guy is innocent.
Oh yeah, at first I had only one explanation when I saw something like that, that the guy is actually using some assistant, some RTA, real-time assistant. But then another person, he suggested this idea that maybe this guy just comes from another environment. Like, how can I put it? Like, he comes from another poker community, you can say.
Or from another generation.
Yeah, from another generation of players, from a different community, from a different field. And he has a different understanding of how to play a certain spot. An understanding that is completely different, I mean, from my understanding, or from the field where I play. And then this gives us another perspective of why he actually chose this line. Not because he's cheating, but because he has a completely different approach. And it's not because of the assistant.
Okay, now let's move to the CoinPoker challenge. You've been playing it for a month, even more than a month, right?
Oh yeah, a month and a week.
So yeah, around 5 weeks, and Owen Messer, also known as Prodigy, ended up winning the whole thing. We've been talking about him, there are some videos on YouTube too. He won pretty convincingly too. And as far as I know, by the end of the challenge, nobody really wanted to play. I heard about you trying to get some tables running. But anyways, what do you think about this whole thing? What did you feel when you were invited to this challenge?
When I first heard about it, well, actually, there have been rumors around this for quite some time. And I think ACR initially was supposed to run this challenge.
Or regulars suggested it to ACR.
Oh yeah, there was a suggestion from your regulars to ACR, and they considered it. They even took like a pause to think about it. And they were open to such suggestions, and they were actually ready to run such a challenge, but in the end of the day they said that they don't want to do it now and declined. And I don't really remember this moment when it was known that PokerCoin is running this thing instead. Maybe they announced it like a month before. But yeah, this is the time frame I can come up with. And there also was this form that you have to fill to apply for the challenge. Or maybe it wasn't like for the challenge itself, but for the opening games. Remember, in the first day of the challenge, they had this opening games.
Oh yeah, I streamed it with Oshpil, by the way.
Yeah, and I also had a draw there, so it was all fair and square. So I mean, everything was randomized. Whoever you get as your opponent at the table randomly, this is what you have to work with. And yeah, I didn't realize what was this forum about, like whether to register for the event or for this opening game. And I didn't fill it out for quite some time. And also this month before the challenge was the month that I have to move again. And of course, I was completely absorbed by it, instead of doing some poker stuff and preparing for the challenge and so on. So in the end, I figured everything out. I worked everything out like maybe a week and a half before the start of the challenge. And by that time, I haven't played for like 2.5 weeks at least. So to put it mildly, I was out of shape.
And then you had to get it back during the event.
I was in doubt actually whether to play or not. But then I had a couple of sessions before the event, a couple of sessions on regular tables, and you know what? I felt this energy inside. I felt this faith actually, and decided to do it anyways. I prepared 20 buy-ins for this one, 20 buy-ins that I was actually ready to lose, without probably depositing anything on top. And yeah, then the 2nd of December came, I believe, when the whole thing started. I woke up, I saw this first like couple or 3 tables, and yeah, I had a great feeling actually.
I was following you there. I was rooting for you when I played tournaments. I watched your games, and as far as I can tell, there were days when you basically started playing in the very morning and played until the late night. You are, by the way, in top 3 in terms of volume here. Oh no, top 4. Top 4, yeah. But anyways, that's a huge volume.
Well, I don't think I played like from the very morning to the late night. Maybe like once, one day like that I can recall. And like in my time zone at the time, there were games going basically the whole day, from the early morning to the late night. Well, at least in the beginning, like first 3 or 4 days. But then over time, the game were less and less. I mean, in the morning, Americans are still playing, right? So you have some action there. And in the evening, you have Europeans playing. But then in the afternoon, there was no action whatsoever. So yeah, there were no games for like 5 hours during the day. And then towards the end of the challenge, even in the morning, there were almost no games. So you had to wait for the evening to play with Europeans. This is how it was.
I listened to a podcast with Nick Prodigy, and he said that he chose this nickname, the screen name Prodigy, so that he has to live up to expectations. And now he won this huge challenge. And what can you tell about his game? You now have played a lot with him, so yeah, what can you say?
Well, to be honest, we didn't play much together. I mean, of course, we played some, being in the same time zone for some time. I don't know where he is right now. He is originally from Britain, as far as I'm concerned.
He's in States.
Oh yeah, it felt like he was playing American time, because he was mostly playing in the morning, my time. So he was finishing his session, I just joined, so we had an opportunity to play for like a little bit. But yeah, not so many hands together. However, we played a lot on ACR. And what can I say? Like, he's a really good player. You almost never see poorly played hands from him. And I cannot say that his strategy is like very tough. I cannot say that it's really hard to play against him. But then at the same time, his strategy definitely works. But yeah, in general, he plays really well. I cannot point out anything bad in his game. I can't recall any like spewy moves from him, like at all.
Oh, this could be dangerous. I mean, this thinking, because I remember Alexei told me during the times where reg wars were going all the time, and you were a part of it, Sergey. And Alexei told me that everyone wasn't like putting you on the top. Like nobody thought that you are very good, but Alexei thinks that you were actually the best at this time in the world. And yeah, this is a great spot, right, to be in, when everyone thinks you are weaker, but you are actually really good.
Oh yeah, that's true. And I also want to point out that how can you put it? There are different ways of outplaying your opposition. I mean, it's not groundbreaking what I'm about to say, but basically the idea is there are two main types of how you can outplay your opponent. First one is you try to outplay him pretty much every single hand. And the second one is that you have an idea of how you can outplay him, but you basically never let him know. For example, if you know that villain overbluffs in a certain spot, you don't necessarily want to call with all of your bluff catchers, even though it is profitable. Like you call any bluff catcher and it is definitely plus EV. However, you don't want to let him know that you call with everything here. So you just don't do it. Because he's not a stupid guy. On this level, there are no stupid players. And he will notice. So if you call with a weaker hand, right, and you get your EV, even if it's like a really big one, most likely he will adjust. And in the next hand, you will not get as much anymore. Or won't get any at all. Oh, can you hear me, guys? I have this problem here.
Oh, no, it's fine.
It's just that I have these noises here.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. It's all good.
So yeah, back to what I was saying. Many players, when they try to outplay their opposition, they use the first approach. The approach when they try to outplay them every hand. So they basically want to get everything right now. To basically show right away that, for example, you cannot overbluff against him in this spot. And this is definitely an option, but I don't really like this approach because you basically give away your advantage. And chances are that very soon there will be no more advantage left. And probably because my approach is to attack the spots, the weak spots of my opponent lightly, without actually showing what's going on. It is not that obvious for my opponents. Maybe they don't even know that I attack them at those weak spots.
Well, I'm pretty sure that this is how it actually is.
Well, great, it works then.
So I came up with this idea of to gather all the results of the players of the new generation. Guys like Prodigy, of course, Absolute Top Up. He's also 26, by the way, if you didn't know. SeaLlama as well. Who else? Dan Kolodjurjevic. What about Daniil Vasilyev? Oh no, Daniil is an old school guy. He actually plays poker longer than I do, if you didn't know. I do know, but in terms of high stakes... Well, in terms of high stakes, yes, maybe. But I just wanted to gather the new players, the guys who popped up recently. Yusuf Ahmed too, on Stars. I don't remember his nickname on ACR.
Boni Ume.
Oh yeah, Boni Munes.
Boni Munes? No, Boni Ume.
Well, I just call him Boni Munes, like in your honor. Anyway, we combine results of those guys and compare those to the results of the players of my era. Linus, Kevin... Oh, by the way, Porter Knopp is also the new guy. Oh yeah, he is. So yeah, we compare those to Linus, Ace and Flashy, Kevin, you, Ignacio Moron, David Jones, SM Gale, Dude. I mean, our guys from our time. Yeah, Vitya, Stefan, all the guys. Anyways, as you might have guessed already, we lost. So the new guys are doing better. A lot of it has to do with the great result of Prodigy. And Rigitek, by the way, is also, he's closer to us. Just like Daniil Vasilyev, he was always around, but he's kind of a newbie at the highest stakes. But if we consider the guys who at least played some high stakes games on Stars, Well, at least they have an idea of what it is like playing on stars. Then Rigged is closer to us. But yeah, overall the youngsters did better. Thanks to Prodigy and his amazing results, of course. But yeah, they are basically breathing in our necks already. Did you notice the difference, like when you were, of course it's time zone dependent, but when you were playing against the old guys, like Nachos or Davy Jones, compared to when you had to play against like Prodigy, SeaLlama, or Rigged Deck again, or Pure Nop?
Difference in what sense?
Well, game-wise, maybe it's like more comfortable for you to play against the old guys, or maybe it's like more interesting to play against the young guns. Oh yeah, is there a difference between the old school and the new school, basically?
Well, I've played a lot with many of these guys, not as much with Kevin. I mean, we played some on GG Poker. I mean, we used to play a lot before, but then, I mean, after some break, I think he started playing much better. Like, this was my experience. Well, it feels like the old school guys are a little more measured, like a little less sporadic. Meaning that, well, for example, if you have an opportunity to rebluff, you would do it like a couple of times, right? But they will do it pretty much every time. So every time they have an opportunity to rebluff, they would take it. Maybe this is the key difference. It also takes them longer to cool down. So they are basically red-headed and more bold, more cocky at times. But overall, I would say that I was okay playing against anyone from this list. And this was a really interesting experience for me playing on CoinPoker, because I got to play against pretty much all of the guys here. And you can clearly tell that everyone plays differently. Like, there are a lot of different styles, a lot of different approaches. Because when you grind ACR, like, you basically play against these same like 5 or 6 guys, and you kind of get used to them. But here you have 40 different opponents, and everyone plays differently. And yeah, it was really interesting to play against different types of opponents during different times of the day. And you cannot just focus on your strategy and keep doing what you're doing. You have to come up with something. You have to adjust. So something that works in the morning might not work in the evening, because the set of players is completely different. And yeah, you basically had to change gears all the time. And it is really cool. I get like kicks out of this competitive stuff.
Well, yeah, the real world championship, basically. Everyone was playing, and yeah, it ended up being like a really cool event. Well, the coverage could have been better, and even that the table that we see, that you guys see on the screen, was made by some guys on 2+2. But yeah, watching it was really cool. It's close to Olympic Games, I would say. Like, why not?
Oh yeah.
And there is also variance in the Olympic sports, right? And of course the volume is not big enough. But in these games, Prodigy went home with gold. Maybe we can introduce actual medals for the next competition. But yeah, it was really cool. Yeah, and in terms of following event, I know from this secret talk that they are thinking about a heads-up challenge. What do you think about it? Is it interesting for you to participate in a heads-up one?
Well, considering my chances, not at all.
Well, from what I saw, I thought that you are actually very positive towards the idea of playing heads-up.
Well, I am positive, but my skill certainly not. Especially against the guys who are going to play there. I can objectively assess, I think, my heads-up skill. And my chances are very slim.
Well, this format 3+ is perfect for you.
Oh yeah, this one is the best. I could never imagine even that anything like this will ever come up. So now I want to send a message to all the poker rooms. I mean, all the poker rooms that allow high stakes games. Guys, if it's possible to do something like this on a regular basis, this would be like just amazing. I don't know, like once a year, couple times a year.
Yeah, like a world championship. I mean, there were a lot of players this time because we didn't have anything like it for quite some time. If we run this one again, I don't think we can see as many players, but we can do it like once a year. Because it's impossible to bring 44 players if you do it too often.
Well, they have W Coupe events on PokerStars, right? And they run those like twice a year. Yeah, this would be like just perfect. Twice a year for me, it would be perfect, but I realize that it's hard to run this type of things twice a year. So once a year is also great.
Yeah, like a world championship every year. Then you get some marketing going, some advertisers. Although I actually think that Prodigy is more happy to receive this cool, unique watch with engraving than like an extra 100k or so. Well, it's not that obvious because you flip like what, 250 or 500k of EV, and all you receive for that is just a simple watch. I mean, if rooms provide like some decent prizes for these stakes to motivate players, it would be more effective.
Well, yeah, I'm pretty sure it will motivate players, it will increase their interest, but at the same time, some guys here, like they've lost around 200k, and this is a lot of money still. And if we talk about running those every year, like imagine a guy plays one championship and he loses 200k. And then he comes back next year and he plays another one and again he loses around 200k. Well, he probably won't be coming back for the third one. So we need to figure something out here.
Well, if they run it once a year, then he has a whole year to get everything back. And then try again.
Yeah, we need some action besides the championship where the people can win some money. And yeah, then try their luck in the championship.
Yeah, and towards the end, I wanted to take a look at some of Prodigy's hands. I don't have a lot, like I picked some of those to just see how he plays. Maybe we can learn something from the world champion, basically, of the last year. Yeah, not this year, but the last year. Because it started in the end of the last year, right?
Well, you know, I have a list of players and maybe I can tell something about each one of them.
Oh yeah, that would be just great. That would be amazing.
Well, if not about everyone, right? But at least I can say something about some of those guys.
Oh yeah, sure.
Well, you guys can like give me some direction and then I can follow.
Well, maybe we can start like go by the number of hands played. Well, you know what? Stefan played like 500 hands and we can talk about him for an hour easily. Oh yeah, that's very true, and this is why we just start from the guy who played the most hands during this event. And this is Kevin Pake. He played like 72,000 hands. So he's definitely number one in terms of hands and hours played. And he had huge streaks like up streaks, down streaks. He had like multiple 20-buy-in swings. And so what can you tell about him?
Well, if you'd ask me who was the tougher guy to play against, well, no, let's rephrase it. Not the toughest guy to play, but the guy with the most solid strategy. I would say Kevin. Looking at his strategy and looking at my reads on the guy, I just don't see where I can actually outplay him. I mean, I can play solid against him in most of the spots, but the spots where I can actually get an edge, well, there aren't any. At least I don't see any for now. So yeah, he wasn't probably the toughest opponent to play against, but at the same time, I had no idea how I can outplay him. And in terms of his tricks, well, as far as I remember, he played like very long sessions, 3K hands per day, and yeah, this is a lot. So it's obvious where those tricks come from. Well, his play style is far from tight, so it's no wonder that stacks were flying around for him. And I think he deserves to be higher than when he ended up eventually, well, at least top 3 for me. I think he should be like at least top 3 in this competition.
Oh yeah, I agree. For me, it was always tough playing against Kevin, but mostly because he never pays anything off. For me, it was always tough to play against guys who know how to fold thinly. So you cannot just like sit around doing your stuff against those guys. You have to be proactive. Otherwise, they will stomp you. So yeah, against him, since he never pays you off, you had to come up with some stuff to make you pay off at least something. You have to come up with some creative bluffs. And Beardy asked me a couple times who was the toughest opponent to play against for me, and I'd always say Kevin, because he never pays off. Is it the same with him? Can you confirm it? Or maybe it was different during the challenge? Because he always was like this before.
Well, he did pay off, but only in good spots.
Oh yeah, this is what he does. He only pays off in spots where you actually have bluffs.
I can say that he was folding everything or that he was calling everything. He was very selective, and he was also very smart about it. So you expect him to pretty much never make a brainless call. So yeah, he just called some portion of his range, and overall I'd say that he has a very correct, I would say, approach to defending. And he ponders every spot. It's not like he automatically calls a certain amount of hands in certain spots. He can read spots really well. He has a feel for when people are bluffing, when they usually don't bluff, and he adjusts accordingly. And he also does it in a non-obvious way, so you never know will he overcall you in this spot or not. Well, at least this is how it was for me. He has a very deep understanding of the game. And in most of the spots, he knows exactly what he is doing. And I can say that he knows exactly what I am doing, right? But at least he has a really good grasp of what the field is doing in those spots. And in the end of the day, you have a guy who is really tough to beat. And I speak for myself, of course, but I have no idea how to beat him, how to outplay him.
Well, you're not the only one, it seems, considering his results in the challenge. Well, number 2 in number of hands played is Rigged Deck. He is also number 2 in EV. So what can you tell about this guy?
Well, this is the guy I played a lot against before the challenge. So I mean, in 2024, we faced each other a lot at the tables. And unlike Kevin, he is playing in a very exploitative style, I would say. So it's really different from what Kevin does. However, I can't still figure out what is he exploiting and how he does it. I mean, during the 2024, I had pretty poor results against him. And during the challenge, he took like 13 binds from me. Nobody else came even close to this result against me. So yeah, out of all the guys, he won the most against me.
And who you won the most against?
I'll come back to it later. And I don't really know how that happened, because he, it seems, never did anything to win that much against me. And I never did anything to lose this much against him. Well, of course, it could just be variance. This is like one explanation. But the other one would be that he got under my skin so deep that he actually knows what to do to beat me consistently. And the truth probably lies somewhere in between. And now to the player I was the most successful against. Well, as weird as it sounds, it was Linus. I think I took like 6 binds from him. There were some coolers, of course, and there were more coolers in favor of me in the end of the day. And a couple of times I caught him. And to my understanding, he overplayed his hands in these spots. I mean, he definitely overplayed his hands against my ranges. But against the field, probably he played just fine. And number 2, I believe Prodigy actually. I was quite successful against him as well. I was up 4 or 5 binds, I believe.
Oh yeah, he is actually on the 3rd place in terms of volume.
Oh yeah, there's nothing bad I can say about Prodigy, about his game. As I said before, he is very consistent, he plays really well. He doesn't make big mistakes, doesn't make blunders. Well, this is a necessary quality, I believe, to win such a challenge. So yeah, no surprises here. In terms of my gut feel, like what do I feel about the guy? You know, there is this type of players who have something up their ass. Like they can't stand still. They always active. They always come up with something, and you also have to come up with something against them to defend. So you have to deviate from your default strategy, because if you don't, then you will be constantly pressured.
Do you have an example of such a player? Like SeaLlama comes to mind first, of course.
Yeah, SeaLlama, Matt Morinelli, Bergart also is this type of guy.
What about Cindy?
Oh yeah, Cindy too.
Cindy is this LOL Voidaments guy, right? Yeah, number 34.
What's interesting is that all the guys I just mentioned, they are all in the red here.
Oh yeah, that shows something.
Yeah, but I mean, come on, everyone has his own path, so yeah. So yeah, let everybody play the way they want.
Okay, next one in terms of number of hands is you, and I don't think you want to talk about yourself, so then we have Bergart. He played 38k hands, he never gave up, so he played till the very end. So what you can say about him in this challenge?
Well, I have said a couple of words about him before, that this is the guy I am really uncomfortable playing against. But we didn't really face each other much during the challenge. I don't know what time zone he played from, but for some reason he only showed up at like 4 a.m. my time. And there were like a couple of times when I was finishing my session, and he showed up. And yeah, these times he did show up. He immediately started pushing, putting pressure in the different spots. And for me, it was like a 10th hour of my session, and it's easier to avoid these situations. So my best bet was to just quit right away. I'm totally not ready to play the last hour of my session against Bergart, who is super fresh. Not a good idea.
Oh yeah, I agree. Well, I remember he tried to provoke you a little bit, like let's go play some heads-up games or something. He said in chat. Do you remember that?
From what I remember, we had this VIP table on NL20K. So we played for some time. Then the table broke down, so there were no more game going. And I just sat there so with the table open. And he joined the table and wanted some heads-up action. So we played for some time. I took a stack from him, and then decided that I don't want to play anymore. And he started baiting me, like, come on, let's play some more and stuff. Like, come on, this heads-up session is really going well for you. Why do we want to stop? And yeah. However, I didn't take the bait, so yeah, he was upset about this one.
Next we have Absolute Top Up, also known as Real Man Red Hole, 35k hands. What can you say about him?
Oh yeah, this is a very interesting opponent. By the way, he's the only American who ended up positive here, right? Yeah, one of 6 Americans to get in the green. Well, I remember him because he made really big pots out of small ones. So he didn't hold himself with huge raises and stuff. And I actually was a victim of that in one of the hands. Well, I can give like a little background here. So it was not the first hand of the session, but it was just the beginning of the session for me, and he joined the tables. I didn't really know much about him. Well, I played some against him, but I didn't really have any reads. And there was this just casual single raise pot, small pot. We went all the way to the river, I bet like half pot, and face a 30x shove or something like that. And it was a show table, by the way, so probably he shoved for the first time with a bluff to show everyone that he's capable of throwing these huge bluffs. And then after some time, we have this hand. I actually showed you this one, so you know.
Oh yeah, I do remember us going through it.
So it's a blind versus blind spot. The pot is very low. We get to the river. I block and face a huge shove again. And the spot actually not that bluffy to begin with, but maybe this first hand where he shoved with the bluff affected my decision making. If it wasn't for this first shove, I would have probably folded. However, I had a perfect hand for bluff, like the perfect bluff catcher, so I called, and of course he showed nuts. So yeah, I was most likely just outplayed in this spot. By the way, I have a question for you guys. So we have this dynamic going, right? Where he knows and I know that those are the show tables. And everyone will see the showdowns here. Everyone will see his bluff. And he knows that I saw his bluff, right? And not just a regular bluff, but a really big one, like a really expensive bluff in a quite small pot. So then the similar situation appears, and he uses this huge size again. What do you think, guys? Will people actually change or adjust their strategy based on what they saw before? Based on the fact that they saw that he showed a bluff like 15 minutes ago? Or is it better to just ignore it? And people would usually do that.
Well, I would have approached this spot differently to begin with, actually. I remember Durdom was talking about these exact spots, and he said that we should take a look at the pot odds. And if the pot odds are quite bad for us, and at the same time we don't really know what to do, like we don't know if calling is good or not, then we should mostly lean towards folding. Well, Sergey was asking about the leveling war, basically. Well, yeah, I get it.
Well, okay, look, I'll give you some specifics. Like, the shove was quite big, and the pot odds were around 45%. And he had a range that includes like a small amount of hands he's trying to represent, and a lot of potential bluffs. So the pot odds are definitely good enough to call.
Well, in this spot, like with that dynamic, I think yes, you can call. I mean, people would probably lean a little bit more towards calling with all the information you just threw in.
People are more likely to call or people more likely to bluff? I didn't get it.
are more likely to call. In terms of bluffing, by the way, no idea.
Well, I was asking about the bluffing part.
Oh, I got it now. Well, yeah, this is a really good question. No idea, actually. You kinda leveled me with this question. Well, I'm pretty sure that a good professional player should not take part in these leveling wars. He should just play his hand according to the situation. If he thinks that it is a good bluff, then he should bluff. So in his shoes, in absolute top-up's shoes, in this case, against you, I would try to abstract myself from the previous experience and assess this spot separately. Or I would follow a very old poker tip, which goes like every next 3-bet is stronger than the previous one. Meaning that if someone 3-bets you more and more constantly all the time, you should treat every next 3-bet as a stronger one. So yeah, on level 1, basically, I would either try to abstract completely from the previous spot and assess this one separately, or I would follow this idea that every next 3-bet is stronger than the previous one. So in this case, I would assume that this is the second time he shoves, so this range on average will be stronger than the previous one. And then if he does this again, the range is even stronger, and if he does it for the first time, it's the strongest. And following my experience, this is how it usually is.
Oh, yeah, in the context of what you have just said, that every next 3-bet is stronger than the previous one, when I watched these show tables are the tables where even if you fold, you get to see the showdown after. So yeah, while I was watching those tables, what really surprised me is the level of variance in the real games. You can see they're playing in certain spot, like you open in a certain spot and you get 3-bet from the same guy like every other time. Like one time you open, he 3-bets, then the next orbit you open in the same spot and he folds, then the other time he 3-bets again. So yeah, basically he 3-bets 50% of the time, but it looks like he 3-bets you every time. And if you don't see the cards, if you don't see his hands, like hands he 3-bets with, it really feels like he's just 3-betting you like crazy. And it may continue for like half an hour or an hour. But this challenge showed that sometimes people just get 3-betting hands all the time. Like he has a 10% 3-betting range, and he get hands from this range every other time for like half an hour. And he's not trying to push you around. He's not trying to bluff you off and stuff. He just gets the hands that he usually 3-bets.
Oh yeah, I have a very good understanding of what you are talking about. My most successful games during Reg Wars were exactly like that. Like you play your ranges and the opponent feels like you are constantly putting pressure on him because you bet and raise all the time, but you are just playing within your ranges, you just get lucky. So yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. And I remember Purity in his very old video of probably like 2011 said that you just play your ranges and the variance will take care of everything else. Sometimes you will feel pressured, sometimes other guys, while you both are just playing your ranges. So yeah, I get this. Well, you taught me to deny meta completely. Yeah, but there are two ways. You either deny metagame completely, or you jump in and you create this metagame. But then be ready to get beaten by me.
I just had a thought that you can actually use it to your advantage. If you know that a villain is not familiar how the variance works, then you can, for example, you have a really good run. Like you get a lot of hands that you can 3-bet like in a row, and then you feel that he is about to lose it. Like he's about to start thinking that you are actually pushing him around. And then you can make little adjustments to your range.
Oh yeah, of course. And returning to what you were saying about how you lose the feel for the game when you take a break from poker. Well, at least for me, you also lose the feeling of when your opponent is, well, for the lack of better words, butthurt. So yeah, when you play a lot, you kind of get this feeling when your opponent is frustrated. But when you take a break, you kind of lose it.
Yeah, and speaking of butthurt, by the way, rigged deck before, like probably 3 or 4 days before the end, he was actually at the top. So he was ahead of everyone. But then in the last day, he started losing his positions and Owen took over. And I remember I joined the tables, I started my session, and him and Enlight were playing, and rigged deck, he was trying to find action everywhere during the whole day. He was spamming in Discord, let's go play, like come on guys, so let's play. So you could clearly tell that the guy is super pumped, super eager to play. He's super eager to reduce the gap between him and Prodigy to eventually claim this #1 spot. So I started playing him that day, and he definitely played differently. So he changed his style a little bit. It was obvious that he was playing more aggressive. So he tried to basically shake up the game a little bit to maybe find some loose spots, which will maybe, hopefully, allow him to close the gap between him and Owen. And yeah, the problem is that it was so obvious. And to my taste, it wasn't a good adjustment because, again, in like 20 minutes, everyone knew what was going on. And finally, in the last day of the challenge, he lost a lot. He lost like 12 buy-ins, I believe. And I witnessed all of it, all of these nasty coolers. And he was pretty open about his feelings in chat. He said how unfair everything is.
And the winner in terms of chatting, by the way, is Enlight. You see, they even gave him this specific badge next to his nickname. He dissed pretty much everyone he could, and they had a really big battle with Dian. It was fun to watch, by the way. They called each other Nit many times.
Well, they both are nits, so yeah, it is quite fair. So they both were telling the truth, actually.
Okay, what about Asian Flashy? He doesn't play online much. He's much more famous for playing offline, Macau and stuff. And he also was one of the best heads-up players in the world in the past. One of those guys, Linus, is avoiding playing heads-up, and not so many of those you can find. Or he may actually be the only one. Or maybe there are two. Like, anyways, what can you say about him?
Well, he definitely surprised me in a good way. I didn't expect him to be that strong. I don't know if there are many players in this list who are very successful with their red line, but this guy, at least in our shared hand history, has like a huge red line. He is very, very hard, very tough to beat, and well, I think if he were to dedicate more time to playing 6-max, he could have easily become one of, or the best 6-max player in the world. Well, he has a great fundamentals. Well, he really feels his opponents well. I think he does it better than most of the top players.
Oh, he's a huge offline winner. Like he has won a lot offline in the most expensive games.
So yeah, I was surprised that he is that strong.
Don't you want now to come to his home soil, to Macau, and play a little bit offline against him?
Why not?
Oh yeah, he's like an end boss.
One day, maybe.
By the way, I don't know if you know that, but Rigged Deck is backed by Asian Flashy. He lives in Macau, and Prodigy is also probably in Macau right now. So they all probably played from there. And I also rate Asian Flashy really high. I remember his old educational video. I don't remember which site he worked for, but he was teaching Zoom 500. And he wasn't that good at NL 6 Max, by the way, especially for an educational video. However, he made some really unconventional plays, like some weird delayed lines, putting pressure in different spots. And I remember, it was long ago, I was playing NL of 200 Zoom at that time, and I was really impressed by this video. Like right there, I knew that this is a very smart guy, well, like with a huge IQ.
Yeah, this is what I wanted to point out. He doesn't really know 6max ranges well, but he understands the game on a really deep level.
Yes, it was exactly like that back in 2012. Exactly the same. Like you could tell that the guy does not know the ranges. Like when you see that a heads-up player, right, opens a hand like Jack-7 offsuit on the small blind in a 6max game, well, you know that he's not familiar with the ranges. I mean, you never opened this hand, right? Even with the fact that it was Zoom and players fast fold on the big blind and stuff. But yeah. And it was like 2012, so back in the day, not knowing ranges was kinda okay. But then, post-flop, he would find like really smart, really unconventional lines. He was clearly following his ranges, he had a plan. Like these hands will play like that, those hands will play like this, and so on. So it was clear that he doesn't know a theory for 6max games, but he is really smart. And I remember his duel against Linus on 888. They were betting out in heads up, and they were actually disturbing our game plan because we were holding tables there back in the day, and they would also play heads up, and recreationals would join their games. And we had to jump in, like, yeah. They were messing with our game plan.
Yeah, very strong, and as you mentioned, a very smart player.
Well, I actually played against him offline.
I think if he'd set a goal to master 6max, he could have achieved a lot.
Well, as far as I know, he has enough money to not worry about this stuff anymore.
Well, he still came to play this challenge, not because of money, obviously.
Well, yeah, just a casual top 4 finish for a guy who's learning ranges. Well, now he knows his ranges, of course, with all the experience offline and stuff, but back in the day, in 2012, maybe he opened not like Jack-7, but Jack-8, but it was clear that he doesn't know the ranges. And we didn't have optimal ranges, by the way, back in the day, but we had some standard ranges, let's say. And still he was way off. Okay, who else?
Okay, let me tell a little bit about Vitya, Enlight, and Nacho. I'm not gonna say anything about anyone else. Well, Victor is amazing. He only played for like a little bit, just like couple of days. He played a little bit after the holidays, and yeah, he ended up all the way up there. And from what I know, he didn't play much before that.
Oh yeah, he texted me, he had a huge break, so he came out playing without any warm-up, any preparation, and after a huge break.
Oh yeah, it was clear that he is a little bit like out of touch. I just remember battling him out, and you as well, by the way, on ACR, all of those reg wars that we had. And like this small, not mistakes even, like small inaccuracies, you would never expect to see from him when he is in shape. However, even after a break, he came and showed to many guys how to actually play poker. So I'm really glad he came, glad he joined this challenge, and I'm really happy for him. If he were to start in early December, he would have had more time to get in shape. And who knows where Prodigy would have wound up in this case.
Yeah, and then you didn't have to represent like Russian community on your own, basically. Well, with Daniil. Okay.
So yeah, I wish only the best to Victor. I really hope he will play online more.
He's going to Macau soon, I believe. I mean, he's friends with Rigged Deck, he knows all the guys. And by the way, for some reason, he rates Rigged Deck quite low. I mean, Well, it's hard to say. Like, maybe he's just baiting him. Maybe he's just mocking him. It's really hard to tell. Anyway, in terms of chatting, he's definitely number one. Who else you wanted to mention?
Oh, have you seen this hand, by the way, where Prodigy called with 8-3 against Victor, and Victor showed Ace-King? He called basically with a blocker on some supposed bluffing a 3-bet with 8-3.
Oh, this is their thing from Macau. They have names for different hands. BRD is going to show us, like make a little visual stuff so that we can see.
Sanba, I believe, is the name for this hand.
Yeah, Sanba. And so he blocked threes with this one. You get the idea, right?
Oh yeah, of course I do.
We're gonna post this one too, but it's just more of a fun hand, nothing interesting.
Yeah, I called like 15k or whatever that was, just for fun.
Well, he still beats all the bluffs with an 8, right?
Oh yeah, you're right. So it's okay. And finally, I wanted to say a couple of words about Nacho. He started a little later, and I really like his approach. He decided to play in like a short sessions. I can't take how long those sessions were exactly, like an hour or maybe hour and a half. But yeah, he left the tables every hour or hour and a half, and then came back fresh like a little later.
Oh, this is what he used to do like long time ago.
Well, I don't remember him doing that before. Maybe it wasn't that obvious. But here during the challenge, it was kind of obvious. So it catched my eye right away. By the way, he is also one of the guys who plays with a huge red line. So maybe he just realizes that to play in such a style, you have to be focused all the time, and it's hard to keep the same level of focus for long periods of time. So he makes those little breaks. So he kind of goes in this full focus mode for a short period of time, then he takes a break, he recovers, and he does it again. And yeah, I think it's an interesting approach. I mean, if he did it on purpose, then yeah, it's really cool. I really respect that. Besides your technical skills, right? It is also one of the components that you can actually use to gain some advantage at the tables in events like this one. So yeah, huge respect goes to Nacho. Who else would you like to highlight here? Who impressed you or maybe surprised you? Well, not necessarily in a positive or a negative way.
Well, for me as a viewer, SeaLlama, without a doubt. Like he was in games, in chat, in discussions, everywhere. He was super aggressive, and it was cool to watch. Oh yeah, we also discussed that we want to ask you what's going on with Limitless. Why didn't he play a lot? And yeah, what's going on with his poker life right now? Do you know?
Question to me, right?
Yep. I mean, do you have any information on what's going on with Limitless?
Oh no, Alexei should know more about it than I do.
Well, I know nothing.
Well, he's the guy to know such stuff.
Well, I can only share rumors. I can only be like a friend, of a brother, of a kitchen maid, of Limitless, told us that he is now in Macau, something like that. Personally, I have no idea.
Oh yeah, I haven't heard about him lately. He on ACR, he showed up at the tables in the beginning of the year, but usually leave pretty quickly. So yeah, I know nothing.
We talked enough about SeaLlama. By the way, Yasem Gale, you know him pretty well. Don't you know why didn't he play almost at all? Because he started poorly, or why?
Well, it's hard to tell why he played so little. He actually has his own strategy now with unique sizes. For example, in small blind, he would open 5 big blinds.
Oh wow, that's cool.
And I'm not sure how well he himself worked out his own strategy.
Oh, there's some Stefan vibes right there.
I mean, it's cool and all to take your opponents to the places they have never been and they don't understand what to do, but you yourself should understand what to do in those spots. And I'm not trying to say that he don't understand any of that, but to change your small blind strategy in such a big way, you need a lot of time. You need to study this strategy for quite some time. And I'm not sure that he did all this study. Or maybe he just went over the preflop ranges and then he plays postflop by feel. Well, I'm pretty sure he worked on all of that. I'm not sure that he did work enough. To make this new strategy more profitable than the standard or previous one, you need to put in a lot of effort. Well, maybe it's just variance, maybe in some cases he misses out. I don't know. It's hard to tell. Maybe he wasn't planning to put a lot of volume in to begin with, because like Christmas holidays, then New Year's holidays, maybe the time zone wasn't great for him.
I have a feeling that the guys who came to this challenge from ACR were prepared slightly better than those who played GG Poker before that, because 10k ICR rig structure is basically free roll compared to what GG offers. Okay, Sergey, thank you very much for coming. It was really nice to hear from you, especially when you discussed other players with us. I'm pretty sure our viewers will really like it. It's super cool to hear about players, especially from the guy who was actually a part of it. So yeah, thank you for coming.
Oh yeah, thank you for having me, guys. It is really great that we managed to do it rather quickly, while all the memories, all the feelings, all the hands basically are still fresh in my mind. If it was like a week later, I think, and I wouldn't have been able to recall all of this stuff. Like most of it would be just gone. So yeah, thank you guys.